You know, when it comes to hazmat response, speed and accuracy are everything.
Yes, speed and power, baby.
Well, speed and power is a Clarkson Farm thing, but speed and accuracy, that's landing in within the 908 devices thing.
Right. We all know about the little black box, if you will, and now they have the little red box as well.
Yeah, this is why the hazmat teams all around the world are trusting 908 devices. Their handheld MX908 as well as the Explorer IR are a game changer in the industry.
Right. That's one of the few devices out there that can identify the Novichok. So
goes so far beyond Novichoks as well. It can do all sorts of chemical warfare agents, pharmaceutical-based agents, drugs and explosives, and here's the key to it, all at trace levels.
Which is awesome, and I know the Explorer IR can identify and quantify over 5,000 different gases and vapors in seconds. So it's changing the game.
It only supports the argument that these hazmat teams around the world are trusting 908 devices. You guys can check them out at 908devices.com and upgrade your metering toolbox. Beautiful
Amazing.
Day, windy, lovely, second recording of 2025. How you all doing out there?
Excellent. If you have not gotten on the bandwagon, go to your wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the Hazard Class Show with our very own Jake Ricks, and
it's exploding.
It's exploding, and
absolutely
the industrial one's taken off too. I got to put another dozen up today for them, and so. Good stuff. Get on that one. Industrial strength hazmat. It's really good.
For our premium members out there, make sure that you're joining the monthly hazmat happy hour, which is at the end of the month. It's the fourth Thursday of every month. And if you log in, you're going to be put into the possible winnings for a scholarship to the Southernmost Hazmat Conference. The happy hour is a phenomenal thing. Small group of people, we get together, we bullshit about hazmat. It's not recorded. Nothing gets aired. We just can have honest talk back and forth. Sometimes we talk about responses. Sometimes we talk about policies. Sometimes people just bitch about their departments. So it's an absolutely phenomenal thing to jump in on.
And go to the store. You can get your HMAF swag. You can get Nerd 2. I don't know what the hell's going on today, but they sold 14 today this morning.
That's great.
We didn't even mention it, but and you can go and you can get notified of grant stuff, which you should really get involved in. We were successful in getting quite a few this year, and the HMEP grant, which is going to be opening up in the next couple of weeks, is going to be starting. So if you want to be notified of how to get some free money from the federal government, get with us. I think we have a sign-up sheet right now for that.
All right. Conferences, where are we going to be? Where can you find us? The Connecticut Fire Department's Instructors Association, January 11th and 12th. Central VA EMS Expo, March 22nd, 23rd. Wisconsin, the WAMR, the 5th and 6th of March. Oklahoma Hazmat, March 5th and 8th. We're actually going to be kind of splitting our resources to do these. The New England Conference, which, is now getting bigger and bigger by the year, is going to be March 25th to the 27th. The Michigan Hazmat is going to be sometime in April, as well as OMRA sometime in April.
Right. We'll just cut it there because, the list goes on, and we just don't have enough time in the show. So, okay. This, you know what? This was one of the ones that we started to plan out way back in the day. Like we have a lot of scripts and ideas and outlines and stuff like that we put together mostly and then just kind of fell on the side.
Yeah, they very much have my scent all over them. Partially finished, most of the way done, falls off the deep end, comes back years later as a, hey, let's put this together. So that's the ADD.
Well, we have actually. We went into it and we started pulling them out, and we actually got quite a few of them. So we're going to go back into the archives and pull out a lot of these things and do them. But this one is an interesting one. It's a case study, and it is just a summary of what happened, a lesson learned, a good one. I'm sure if you went to technician school, or you might even have some older dudes in your department that might have been around when this happened, but they got to be pretty old because this happened in the 70s.
Yeah, they're pretty crusty at this point. But
Yeah.
we hear about a lot of these things, but we hear them mentioned, right? Nobody really knows the details of not that nobody knows the details, but things get lost over time. The full lesson gets watered down to a sentence. Hey, be careful. This has happened before. And the full context really should be understood as a hazmat technician to be able to, listen, people died. We have an obligation to understand what happened so that those lives aren't in vain.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to.
Kingman, Arizona, a BLEVE, which again is boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion incident, happened on July 5th, 1973. And it stands as a sobering reminder to the catastrophic potential of hazardous materials incidents. And this essay revisits this key details of the incident, analyzing the emergency response and the highlight lessons that will remain vital for modern hazardous materials management and responder trainings.
All right, so we're starting off the scene. It's July 5th, 1973. You got two employees working for a distribution gas plant. They're offloading propane, approximately 33,500 gallons off of a rail tank. And it's going into stationary tanks, right? So they're, kind of that from going from transport mode to stationary. A leaking connection was detected during the operation. Attempts to tighten the fitting with an aluminum alloyed wrench produced a spark and ignited said propane.
Right. Now, both workers were severely burned, one fatally, and a fire engulfed the tank car. And that fire escaped the heat impinged the vapor space, the tank's vapor space, leading to the tank's catastrophic failure approximately 20 minutes after the fire started. And that resulting BLEVE produced a fireball and sent debris over 600 meters and caused widespread destruction.
Now think about this, right? We're only 20 minutes into the incident when that explosion took place. This explosion ended up killing 11 firefighters, one civilian, and ended up injuring almost 100 others. Cost about $1 million in property damages. Buildings in the vicinity, including restaurants, truck stops, offices, all engulfed in flames. Like, this was a catastrophic blast. The blast itself created a 10-foot deep crater, and it hurled pieces of the rail car hundreds of meters, and one of the end caps of this rail car, weighing almost 2 tons, ended up landing almost a quarter of a mile away.
Now, this is a great demonstration of secondary effects of these explosions. We just did, the other day we were talking about secondary devices. Well, we're talking about secondary effects now. That fireball's radiant heat ignited multiple buildings and brush fires in the surrounding area, right? And that overwhelmed the local resources, right? You got these spot fires that are all out there. That intense heat caused a pressure relief valves on nearby storage tanks to activate. It's kind of like when, an explosion goes off and your eardrums pop. Well,
right.
Pressure relief valves on tanks next to it started activating, and then that narrowly averted some further explosions.
Could you imagine that? Like, imagine being an incident commander, first responder. I mean, you have this devastation all around you. You've got members that are dying or dead or injured. And now all of a sudden you have to immediately triage 4 emergencies that just popped up all at once. And that chaos was not isolated to just the fire ground. If you think about that kind of that domino effect, hospitals in the area were almost immediately inundated with hundreds of casualties. Some of them required mobilization via helicopter to other hospitals, ambulances, transportation. Cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas were inundated as they evacuated these people, severely injured victims, trying to get different help, different types of help for the different injuries that they had.
Right. This
disaster stretched so far and beyond the immediate scene. It impacted infrastructure, community, resources. The ripples of this were felt for weeks after the catastrophe.
Wow. And now you have firefighters that responded obviously quickly, because 11 of them died in this operation, right? And they employed cooling tactics to prevent the tank from failing. However, Their equipment and their resources were not enough. The booster tank lines they were supplying 30 gallons per minute were insufficient to cool a tank. Now, when you're thinking about throwing water, I get it. Booster lines are easy, and the easy button. There's a big difference in booster tank lines and inch 3/4.
And let's in no way, shape, or form trying to Monday morning quarterback. I don't know if anyone's even alive that was there, but for the sake of
that's what they used to do.
Yeah, that's what they used to do, right? We have no idea how many hydrants were in the area, right? I highly doubt they were like, no, screw that hydrant. We're just going to hit this. But this idea then plays into this size up role of what are my resources? What's happening?
That's the thing, is that I can see you using a lower GPM line because you don't have water access. And actually, there wasn't a lack of immediate access to a high capacity of water because it was a 1,200-foot hose lay to the nearest hydrant. That's I can see doing. But again, that's not a long term. That's hey, let's just throw some water while we backlay. Right. Again, not looking down my nose at them, but they might not have had a second rig there. I don't know.
And a 1,200-foot hose lay with an apparatus could be a 20-minute operation in and of itself.
That's a quarter of a mile hose. That's a lot of hose.
Right. Like, you got to have the hose. You got to have the manpower. You got to be able to do the connections. Like, that is a lot.
And they were doing that hose lay. They were pulling the 1,200-foot when the BLEVE occurred. And that preempted the use of the deluge gun. They were hitting it with the deck gun on the top. Hey, you know what I hate?
Fucking stepping on Legos.
Would you believe that was exactly what I was thinking before?
Was it really?
Yes. No,
Yes.
I hate my face burning off more.
What? Okay, where did that come from?
Well, from radiation, right? Or actually not knowing about radiation being present.
That's a good point. We have been playing with those Mirion meters, and they're some top shelf devices. So if that's one of your fears, you should keep one with you.
Now, if you were like us, you didn't know who Mirion was, and we didn't actually until we started talking to them. And wow, there is more than meets the eye with these guys.
Yeah, they are in the medical, nuclear, safety, and the defense sectors. They are a multi-billion-dollar company, and I had no idea how far their reach went.
Yeah, for first responders, they've got some really cool rad tech like the AccuRad, the Spear Ace, and the Spear View. That helps you detect and monitor radiation quickly and accurately so we can make smart decisions on the fly.
Yeah, so check them out, Mirion.com. That's Mirion at MIRION.com. Sure. So, as we look at this and as we go, well, what can we learn from this tactically? We understand this very much with foam. Not that this was a foam operation, but what do we say in foam operations, right? You don't start the operation until you have enough foam to complete the operation. Well, when we're dealing with propane tanks and BLEVE tanks and things like that, yes, as firefighters, our natural instinct is let's start putting the wet stuff on the red stuff. But do we have enough to actually engage in the situation? And if the answer is no, then hell, don't engage. Like it's not worth it.
Just stand back.
30 gallons per minute. That's like that's almost a double a garden hose, right? That's not doing anything to actually to try to start to pull the heat from the material from the tank so that it doesn't BLEVE, so that it's just, we have to be able to take a breath. We have to be able to know when non-intervention is the best policy and use that that API, that analyzation process to understand where we are within the danger zone. It's awful mess. Some of the things that led to the contribution or some of the contributing factors to this outside of the fire department, right, is the basic design limitations of the rail car, right? There was a lack of insulation left on the steel that was directly exposed the fire's intense heat right to the steel. This lack of protection, this is what causes the steel to quickly weaken, accelerating failure, especially if that flame is impinging on the vapor space. More modern cars have kind of learned from this, and they are equipped with layers of insulation and protective shells. But just thinking as a first responder, we don't know how that insulation shell is intact when we arrive on scene. So as we're starting to understand whether we're going to engage, where we're putting apparatus, we have to understand that we should be looking at this as a worst case scenario. And if this is our worst case scenario for approaching a propane tank, you're looking at a 20-minute BLEVE time as so far the worst case.
Right. There was another contributing factor of people. Too many looky-loos, right? They had to try to get a safety perimeter, but large crowds were gathering within 200 yards of the incidents, even though the police were saying move back. And that resulted in unnecessary civilian injuries and complicated the efforts of the first responders, because now you have walking wounded, if at best case. And that is going to be a persistent challenge of controlling the public curiosity during emergencies. We like to say, oh, it's a cop problem. It's an everybody problem. Because if it's not handled, it's going to be our problem.
Right. The incident will clear the scene all by itself.
Yeah.
So it's either cleared beforehand or the scene clears it.
Right.
Insufficient training and resources, right? We already recognize the water as a major resource. Part of the discussion talks about the PPE and limited PPE as far as cotton duck coats and polycarbonate helmets and things like that. I would push back against that, because you're talking about 1979, right? Like, how much, one, you're talking about not modern technology, and two, I don't give a crap what kind of modern bunker gear you're wearing. You're not surviving a BLEVE blast. Like, it's just not happening. I think that the biggest thing was the minimum water supply and the lack of ability to actually start to cool the tank immediately. As far as training is concerned, there is a recognition that the firefighters didn't understand and hadn't yet been trained in how BLEVEs operate, handle, how they're formed, and the signs to look for to indicate that a BLEVE is imminent. So we can tack that on to the, okay, well, why did they initiate this? Why did they think that 33 gallons per minute was going to be sufficient to keep this cool? And it boils down to a lack of training.
And you got to remember, I mean, propane didn't become flammable until like the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Well, we didn't know about its flammability until 93.
We couldn't, not even a thing. So, but you have rapid flame impingement. Right. So the fire department's direct impingement of the vapor space, which, again, is the right thing to do. Right. We want to put it on that unheat synced area, which is the head space, which is the vapor space. That's the part that's not heat synced with the liquid. Right. And people say, oh, my God, why would you, why would I want to keep the liquid? The liquid, even though it's flammable, is actually sucking heat up. But the top part, not sucking heat up. That's where all water comes in. So, the fire impinging on that vapor space made the situation worse. Vapor, unlike liquid, does not absorb the heat, right? So it is important. Luckily, gravity works with us too, is that when we throw the water on the top of the tank, gravity brings the water down around the belly of the tank, which does the liquid as well. But the primary move, put the cool stuff on the top.
Yeah, I've got a great demonstration for in class for this. And it usually makes everybody cringe. If you took just a regular plastic cup, see-through plastic drinking cup, fill it with water, take two, have one that's empty, take a lighter, put it under the cup, and you see immediately there's a hole that melts, and you show that to the class, and everyone's like, okay, yeah. And then you either find the biggest dude in the class that could beat the piss out of you, or the highest ranking chief and officer, and you take that cup of water and you put it over their head with the lighter, and you put that lighter underneath the cup, and you just let it sit there, and the damn cup maintains its structural integrity because of exactly what you were saying. So, little in-class demonstration to support that. Also, the gaps in communication were recognized as a contributing factor, because that the initial operation, which would be the guys handling the propane, weren't able to communicate that there was an issue fast enough. It it messed up the ability for the fire department to even start an initial response. So that limitation allowed the fire to then get into the vapor space or affect the vapor space. And by the time the fire department showed up, now they had even less time and opportunity to do something to try to mitigate the circumstance.
All right. So now we understand how it went wrong. Let's talk about some of the improvements. Now, there is a little bit of 1975. That's 40,
long time,
50 years, almost 50 years ago. Okay. 50. It's coming up on 50 years. This 4th of July will be 50
crap.
years.
We're old.
Yeah.
We're old. All right,
and a lot of this stuff they've done, like one of the things was to enhance the equipment standards. And one of the things was to insulate and double wall rail cars to significantly delay the catastrophic failure, providing responders with critical time to mitigate risks. These design improvements have been incorporated into many modern rail cars and demonstrating that these reforms, right? They didn't just let these guys die in vain. They actually this was one of the reasons why they changed the design to a much more modernized, what we would call today. It does not alleviate you from saying, well, this is all fixed up. I don't have to really. No, it's
squared away.
You got a head start. That's what you got.
Yeah. Training has come a long way in the past 50 years, right? We now have even regular operations firefighters, especially our training. Oh, that was such a self-serving. I love us. Okay. So because, even operations level guys, their hazmat training has become so much more involved in understanding of chemical physical properties and cause and effect and things like this. One of the leading results of this is that no-go radius was extended out to almost a mile for propane tank cars. Understanding and seeing the power of the blast and the devastation, we now can look at the ERG and go, oh, we need to be at least a mile away.
Yeah. And also water supply. NFPA got involved, right? And they said that they recommend flows of at least 500 gallons per minute for each point of flame impingement. So now the current strategies include pre-planned water relay systems and the use of aerial apparatus to deliver high volume waters efficiently from further away. Smart.
Now, it is smart. And as just a point of quick math, sometimes we talk about things in the field, we talk about quick math and we're like, I don't know if I'm putting a good enough amount of water on this rail car. Is it absorbing all the heat? Is it doing this? Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're spraying water on the tank and you're able to see water hit the ground, there is sufficient coverage in that area. If you do not have water hit the ground, that means that the water that's hitting the tank is absorbing all the heat and evaporating, and there's too much heat. The heat is overcoming the water. The water is not overcoming the heat.
On the other side of that, if you have copious amounts hitting the ground, you're putting too much water up. Slow your flow a little.
Slow it down a little.
Like you don't need to put 70 billion gallons out a minute because you can.
You don't need to fill an Olympic swimming pool.
No.
Right. It's all about the balance, right? But that is one key thing we want to understand. If water's not hitting the ground, even if you're like, I'm putting 500 gallons per minute in this one spot, if the water's not touching the ground, you need more water touching the tank. So public safety was also kind of critiqued in this. Obviously, there was so much destruction around the community, buildings, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards, that the effectiveness of the public education campaigns about evacuations and clearing the cars and who has the authority on scene, all of this was kind of scrutinized, and we come up with a lot of the modern ways in which we can communicate with the public and how we view the way that the person on scene can control the scene.
And not even part of what we even brought up in the contributing factors or anything, but incident command. That really wasn't a thing that we did it. I know, I wasn't involved, but they did it. It just wasn't called what we call it now. But these things created the command structures, the pre-established mutual aid agreements. This made sure that agencies collaborated together, minimize delays, confusion, high stress type scenarios where nobody's thinking straight. It's all laid out we just pick up the book and do it.
Another thing that we want to look at, right? We understand that today's personal protective equipment is much more robust than it was years ago. Not saying that the people that died would not be dead because of the actual pressure wave of the blast, but when we're on a scene like this and we could be affected in a long distance from radiant heat or BLEVEs or things like that, it's important to not go towards that side of I'm going to unclip my gear, I'm going to dress down, because in the event of a BLEVE, in the event of a massive amount of radiant heat being released at once, the gear that you're wearing could actually protect you from some severe burns.
So to wrap this thing up, the Kingman, Arizona disaster was the one that always gets talked about, right? And this was one that really continuously pushed for protocol, equipment, training, updates, and stuff like that. And there has been a ton of them. But there has been a couple other we want to point out if you want to do a little more self-reading on this thing about propane-related incidents. There was one in 1997 in Carthage, Illinois, and also Albert City, Iowa in 1998 that are eerily similar, just not as grand. All right. These events reinforce the necessity for maintaining your training, safety practices, your PPE, getting cooperative with mutual aid agreements and stuff like that, and just keeping your general head on a swivel.
Are you ready to train differently? Then head to thehazmatguys.com to customize your training today. Pick up a copy of the Nerd Books Volume 2. Browse our excessive swag. Get your department added to the grant funding list and stay up to date with all things Hazmat Guys. Don't wait. Secure your team spot today.